Welcome, flip clock fans. Here we find ourselves on eBay, a place I should probably stay off of. But I was on there and I found this clock and it caught my attention, and there's a particular reason why. I had more than two of these, but not complete. That's not exactly what got my eye though. The clock here, you can see they say it's not working, and the cabinet is not in that great a shape. But here it is, the 8FC 69WA. This is an advertisement, of course, also on eBay that I found. And you can see this is a Sony Digimatic. The first clock radio you don't have to set the night before. Now here in the advertisement it talks about this is their Deluxe hardwood model. It sports a handy speaker that hides right under your pillow, called this pillow speaker. Now, I had a time finding one of those. I'd heard about them and hadn't found one. But that's the thing, this clock is the Deluxe version. A lot of people think because it's wood it's an older clock, and not necessarily so. The first one was actually plastic. But here's why I felt like I needed this clock. It actually came with a polishing cloth. Now you've got to be kind of a nut about collecting to care about that, but I had heard that these clocks came with a polishing cloth. And that's what it is. It's actually got Sony imprinted on it. It has never been used. I would imagine that it's kind of rare, so I got this so that I could complete this Sony Digital 24. It's got the pillow speaker, and now we have the polishing cloth that is mentioned in the instructions. This Digital 24 was actually the first flip clock radio. Then the Digimatics were right after that. The Digimatics were the same radio, but just for the American market. You can see here the instructions that came with this radio, that the supplied accessories are the pillow speaker and the polishing cloth. Again, I hope you'll forgive me for being excited about finding that, but I would have paid the $30 just for that cloth. I know it's crazy, but as you see here, it says it's recommended that you have the clock lubricated once a year. Now, I don't think anybody did that, and they're not talking about the motor. They're talking about the different metal components, and we're going to talk about that. These are the instructions that came with the clock we just purchased, and again, as a flip clock nut, we like to get these. We like to see the originals. A lot of times we'll scan these in. Here you see the 69, the 8FC 69 and 8FC 59. The Digimatic. So we'll probably have these scanned in and have them on flip clock fans. But now turning our attention to this cabinet, I thought, well, I've got these clocks. Maybe this one I can get working and get it together, and I want to refinish this. And I did some research online, and what I found out was no matter what I decided to do, it was going to be wrong, or somebody would take issue with it. But if you look here, this clock is plywood. It's not solid wood. And the outer part, the outer laminate there is very thin. If that's a millimeter, we're lucky. You're not going to be able to do a lot of scraping or sanding. So I looked at that and I thought, well, I've got one shot to do it right, and I want to do something that could be undone. There's the felt. That's going to help keep that light from shining out through. These little plastic inserts just pop out. So I'll pop those out, and I'll work on my refinishing. And then we'll save all that stuff to put it all back. We've got a good front face here for the clock. Again, if we get this all together, we'll have a nice looking clock. Now this is the internals here, and I had to do some work on the switch. The switch wasn't working. Now that's working fine. The lights that light the dial, I've put this tape over top of them. That just helps direct the light down into the dial. Here you see, this is what the original lights look like. You'll almost never find these working. There's 5 volts or so supplied to these lights, so I used a 6-volt bulb to replace them. And it's going to work just fine. I think we'll be safe there. And I'll turn the lights out here, and if I activate the radio, you can see how that lights the dial. And at night, in darkness, it's just fine. I'm not one that has to have it real bright. I think a lot of times people want LEDs in there, and they'll have it bright during the day. But over here is the green light that lights the alarm if you've got the alarm set with that gray button. And I was fortunate enough to find one of my clocks that had that actual original green bulb. Now you can paint a bulb with green paint or use a green marker. Now the motor, that's the thing that really we have major issues with. And I think it's because of the mechanism. Again, I think the mechanism was probably supposed to be lubricated regularly. This particular mechanism, while it is solid, it has issues. You see, there is no gear. And what happens is the motor has a odd-shaped circular type that rotates and pushes up, and that ratchet will grab that and pull it down. So that's very unique. It wasn't very functional. And like I said, I think it caused the motor to overwork and fail. And I think that's why they didn't go with these after this. There wasn't many of those after that. They got the couple mechanisms. So here we go. We're looking at this cabinet. This is the before. We're going to look how we're going to get this fixed. And I did a lot of figuring. I did a lot of research. First thing I wanted to do was to wash it and get it clean with Dawn dishwashing liquid because of all the grime. And then I followed that with Watco Teak Oil. So that's a teak oil color, and I did about 3 coats of that teak oil. I didn't want to go further with the teak oil because I didn't want it much darker than that. And it wasn't getting the sheen I wanted, so I thought, well, you could use polyurethane, but then it'd be a lot of buildup around all these labels and stuff. And I didn't want to have to correct it. So what I used was mineral oil. You can actually do that. That's just straight up food-grade mineral oil on there. And it's not real greasy. I wiped it all down. It's going to protect against fingerprints. And also water drops. So I did a water drop test, and that water beads on there now. So we're going to get all this back together, and it looks like we're going to have a working clock that actually looks pretty good. Now there's some things about the clock that I think is important to know. Getting that wood case on there, I probably should have showed you. I tried a couple times, and it's got to get over top of the post there on the time set. And with a plastic clock, you can kind of stretch the case a little. Now you can't with this, and I think people have damaged their wood cases. You can't do that. So what you have to do to get your case on and probably off safely is to unscrew the mechanism before you start messing around. So you want to unscrew the mechanism while the clock's all together, and that allows you to get that wood case on and off. Now this, one of my clocks, I don't know which one, it wasn't this one, had this tag that was on the cord, and it's dated June 20th, 1971. It just says that your cord is your FM antenna. You got to move your cord around to get better reception. There's a AM antenna, internal AM antenna on this, but the FM picks up through the cord. That's very common in these flip clock radios. So it's looking pretty sharp, I think, and it's all working. Now there's another part here that sometimes you won't find. If you look at these online, a lot of times these are missing, and it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. They're not just washers; they're kind of fancy washers. They have a inset where the screw will fit down in. It's a nice look when it's like a recess. I think they get lost when people take the clocks apart because I've never seen one. None of my other 2 clocks had these. Like I said, it just provides a nice look. Kind of finishes it off. It's taken me a while. It's taken years to get to where I had enough clocks to make one good one. And people will ask me, where do you get parts for these clocks? I say, well, you got to buy old clocks and get parts. And well, we don't like to hear that. We want to have a store that'll sell these, and they don't. Of the 3 clocks, I had one good motor to get this going. Now, there's 2 screws to finish the deal, and of course I can't find them since I've been working on this for a while, but I do have my parts place where I put stuff. My little tub here. It's a magnetic thing, and I was able to find those screws. They're just machine screws. Here's my little mess here. I guess I've got these razor blades. That's my security system. No one's going to reach in there and get my stuff. So you can see all kinds of stuff. You might pick up on, there's Panasonic stuff. That's from like a 6015. Just little odds and ends, screws and bolts and nuts. It's just curious how things accumulate here. Got a wheat penny. I think I got that because it was dated one of the years of my clocks, one of my clocks. And here's a buffalo nickel, but this is a curious buffalo nickel. It has Bugs Bunny on it. I'm not exactly sure why, but I aim to find out. We'll talk about that someday. So there it is, the Sony Digimatic 8FC 69W, the Deluxe model in wood. To me, it looks like it turned out pretty good. You can make your own decision if I made a good choice. It looks good. Glad I got it. Well, thanks for taking the time.